Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. I have the good fortune to introduce to you our Agnideva Prabhu. Some of you have his recording CDs, right? You've heard, and many of you have heard him lead bhajans and Kirtans in Los Angeles Temple. Agnideva joined the Hare Krishna movement in 1973 and was initiated twice by Srila Prabhupada. In the 70s, he joined in New York. He was in Los Angeles Temple, and he became the president of Laguna Beach Temple. He started a successful temple there and moved the temple and started a successful restaurant there. And in his householder ashram, he started restaurants in other places, one in Santa Rosa, in Santa Cruz, in Eugene, Oregon, and another all successful restaurants. And now he's the temple president. He's Vanaprastha now, getting ready for the renounced order of life. And he's the temple president of the temple. Oh, he was born in Trinidad and Tobago, the island country there near Venezuela in the Caribbean. I think, is it true, Agnideva Prabhu, that he comes from a family of musicians? And was that true, your family? I didn't ask you. And he's spearheading the Srila Prabhupada's movement in Trinidad and looking forward to other Caribbean islands as well. And also coming around and doing Kirtans as he's being invited by many temples to do. We're very fortunate to have him here with us today and also tomorrow. I think there was a mix-up in the advertising. Some flyers said 5 o'clock and some flyers said 6 o'clock. So we're getting a sparse crowd, and it will be getting bigger and bigger as the night goes on. And then tomorrow night, for the regular Sunday feast programs, Agnideva Prabhu will be here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dim the light so you can see the...
Hare Krishna. I was here, not in this building, but a few years ago I visited San Jose. Were you here? Yeah. I came for a Sunday feast. At that time I was in Santa Rosa. We had a restaurant there. So, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Padaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Adeshatarine. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gadadhara Srivasadi Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Ballabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Ballabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana. Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana. Jaya Jamuna Tira Bana Chadi Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jamuna Tira Bana Chadi Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Ballabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari. Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Are we ready yet for songs?
Can't tell them any song and then put it on the screen.
And they'll put it up? Okay. Well, let's begin with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Daya Koramure, Toma Bina Ke Dayalu Jagata Sansare. This is a nice song by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is one of the great acharyas in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. About his songs, Srila Prabhupada has said that although they are written in simple Bengali language, the purport, the deep meaning of the songs are very significant. He said they are as good as Vedas. Embedded within the songs are the conclusions of the Vedas. So he has written 2 books of songs, and it said that once Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj was approached by someone who was asking him how to get love of Krishna Prem. And Gaurkishore Das Babaji said, "Oh, that is very easy. It's go into the marketplace and for a few paisa, you can get these 2 books by Narottam Das Thakur." So, Srila Prabhupada himself loved to sing the songs of the Vaishnava Acharyas. They are not ordinary songs. The first time I heard Srila Prabhupada singing the songs, I thought, these are real love songs. These are real love songs. You know, in the material world, the poets, they're always writing love songs. But that is a shadow of these songs by the Acharyas. Narottam Das Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Lochan Das Thakur, all of them. So Srila Prabhupada loved to sing them. His life was so busy, writing books, traveling, preaching, writing letters, and still he found time to sit and sing a bhajan. Yeah. And so there are many, many recordings, old recordings, vintage recordings of Srila Prabhupada singing these songs. But I think for the most part, they've been neglected by devotees in general. But it was Prabhupada's singing that attracted me more than anything else, even more than his books. Actually, when I was first coming to the temple in New York, 1972, I used to speak with different devotees every time I came on the Sunday feast. And at that time, of course, but it was particularly noticeable to me that everything that they said, all the devotees said, they always said, Prabhupada said. And Prabhupada said. And did I tell you that Prabhupada said this? So it was constant. So I was wondering, who is this Prabhupada? It seemed like the devotees didn't speak anything outside of... And for almost every aspect of life, Prabhupada had said something about it. So I went to one devotee. He was one of the top 3 artists in the movement. His name was Parikit Das. And the one that was on the screen, I think maybe that was Parikit. But I know his style. He has a specific way of painting. So sometimes I would take the Sunday feast with him. And so I asked him, I said, I can see that the devotees have they have an attachment for Prabhupada. They have some love for Prabhupada. But I don't know what that is. I said, I would like to taste that love, but I don't know what it is. He smiled and he says, he went and he got me an album, big record. Some of you may not know what that is. A big disc, black. I think it was 33 and a half. And so they had made 2 records of Prabhupada, a Happening album and a Govindam album. So he loaned me the Govindam album. And he said, listen to this. Take it home, listen to this, and then you will get some idea of Prabhupada. So I did. And every morning before I went to work, I would play the album while I was getting ready to go to work, just listen to it loud as I do everything else. And after, I kept the album for about a month, listening to it every day. And I became very much attached. So I brought it back to him and I told him, I said, now I know why the devotees... I said, how he sings about Krishna. These are love songs and he is singing, he's a lover of Krishna. And he said, Parikit said, yes. And he said, Prabhupada's the best singer. And that's how everyone taught. Everything he did was wonderful. So that's how I became attracted to Prabhupada's singing. And so I would always look at in those days there was no songbook. Actually, there was no songbook. But when the songbook finally came out, Achyutananda Swami, he had compiled these songs, and Prabhupada wrote a nice foreword to the book, saying he was very glad that Achyutananda had done this. And he had gathered these songs he had gathered these songs while staying at one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers' temples in Navadvip. Prabhupada had sent him there. At that time, there was no ISKCON temple in India. There was no ISKCON temple in India. Prabhupada had taken about 30 devotees with him and did a tour of India, men and women. And he was conquering India. After coming to the West and being successful, he went back to India with a group of his, as he would say, his dancing white elephants. And then after some time he left, went back to the West, went back touring the world, and he left a few devotees to stay in India and continue to preach. And he left the Chutananda Swami. At that time he was not sannyasi. Him and another boy, Rishikeshananda. So there was no temple, so where would they stay? So they would accept invitations from different life members' homes. Prabhupada had instructed them they can stay only just a few days. 3 days. So they were moving like that, and then they were in Vrindavan, and they thought, being young devotees at the time, they were just a few years old devotees, not, they were like, they went to another one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers had a place in Vrindavan. It was an institute, like a college, Sanskrit. So they went there, and he allowed them to stay. But within a few days, he approached both of the young boys, offering to give them sannyas, which was most unusual. And one boy, he was tempted, and he accepted it. But Achyutananda Swami said, no. If I'm going to take sannyas, I'm going to take sannyas from Prabhupada. So he wrote Prabhupada a letter telling him what happened. And then Prabhupada told him to leave that place immediately and told Prabhupada, go to Navadvip, go to my godbrother Sridhar Maharaj, you'll be safe there. So he went and he stayed there for some time. And that's where he picked up the songs that we have in our songbook today. Because they would sing many songs at the mat. But he brought, by his endeavor, he brought it down. He made tapes singing those songs. So I would listen to those tapes also. And gradually I would learn them. So these songs are very special, they're not ordinary. This one, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Daya Koramore, Toma Binake Dayalu Jagata Sangsara. So Narottam Das Thakur is praying to Lord Chaitanya. He said, you are the most merciful personality, most merciful. He says, who can be more merciful than you? Within these three worlds, there is no one as merciful as Lord Chaitanya. And not only Narottam Das Thakur saying this, but Lord Rupa Goswami, when he first met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Prayag in Allahabad, he also prayed like this. He composed a nice prayer. The devotees chant, Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurati Sino. Says, you are giving, he said, people don't even know what is Krishna, who is Krishna. and you are giving love of Krishna. So how magnanimous is that? He said, you are the most magnanimous, most munificent avatar. And Narottam Das Thakur says, you are also known as Patita Pavan. Patita Pavan, Hetu. You are the savior of the most fallen. You've come to save the most fallen. So he says, but I can assure you, you will not find anyone more fallen than me. Therefore, you should save me first. So Narottam Das is teaching us how to pray. And then he offers his prayers to Nityananda Prabhu, who appeared along with Lord Chaitanya. Nityananda Prabhu, in another song by Narottam Das Thakur, he says, that Lord Chaitanya is none other than Sachi Sutta, the son of Sachi Mata. And Balaram has come as Nitai. So these two, most merciful. Krishnadas Kaviraj has sung, Bande Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gauradaya Pushpavanto Chitro Shando Tamonuda. He said, the two of them coming is like the sun and the moon rising together at the same time. How wonderful is that? So he prays to Lord Nityananda. He said, you are always in ecstasy, you're always happy. His very name, Nityananda, it tells you what kind of person he is. He says, so, but I am most unhappy. But if you put your glance on me, then I can also become happy. Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu is the other self of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is Balaram. He's first expansion of Krishna. Then he prays to Advaita Prabhu. Daya koro sitapati Advaita Goshai. Tava kripa bole bhai Chaitanya Nitai. He addresses Advaita as Sitapati, the husband of Sita. His wife's name was Sita Thakurani. And it was Advaita who, you could say, brought Lord Chaitanya down. Because he prayed to Lord, he prayed to Krishna. This is another evidence. He prayed to Krishna that, please come. If you don't come yourself, it is not possible to deliver these people. They are so fallen. So who comes? Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna making anchor appearance. Krishna had come before, 5,000 years before. Now he comes back, but this time he's in disguise. He's coming as a devotee of Krishna to teach how to worship Krishna in Kali Yuga. That is the significance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is teaching by example. This is his Acharya Leela. And he doesn't come alone. All his Parshadas, his eternal associates, they also come. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu even revealed during his presence who some of them were. And there's a book by one of his devotees, Kavi Karnapur. Prabhupada cites many times in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Kavi Karnapur will tell us, this personality, he is so and so in Krishna Lila. So he came with all of them and established this, his own sampradaya, his own sampradaya, Gaudiya sampradaya. And Chaitanya Charitamrita gives nice descriptions of his teachings and his spreading of the Sankirtan movement. So, Narottam Das Thakur is teaching us that we should always pray for the blessings of the previous acharyas, and we should keep company with devotees. Keep company with devotees who are practicing Krishna consciousness. Then it will be easier. It will be easier for us to make progress. Alone, we cannot do it. The progress will be very slow, if not. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also confirms in one song, O he Vaishnava Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Ekaki amar nahi pai bolo harinam sankirtan. He says, alone, I don't have the strength to do sankirtan. So, together with devotees, if we keep good company, then it's easy. So let's sing. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koro More Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koro More Tuma Bina Ke Dayalu Jagat Samsari Bina Ke Dayalu Jagat Samsari Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koro More Tuma Bina Ke Dayalu Jagata Samsari Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koro More Tuma Bina Ke Dayalu Patita Pavana Hetu Prabhayavatara Mosamo Patita Prabhu Napaibea Prabhayavatara Mosamo Patita Prabhu Napaibea Ha ha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Bolo Kana Koro Ami Baro Dukhi Ha ha Prabhu Nanda Sukhi Kripa Bolokana Koro Ami Bodo Dukhi Daya Koro Sitapati Advaita Goshai Tava Kripa Bole Pai Chaitanya Nitai Bole Pai Chaitanya Nitai Gaura Prema Maya Tanu Pandit Gadadhara Srinivasa Haridasa Dayara Sagara Gadadhara Haha Swarup Sanatana Rupa Raguna Patha Yuga Sri Jivaha Prabhu Lokana Swarup Sanatana Patha Yuga Daya Koro Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas Ramachandra Sangamage Narottamodar Sri Acharya Bas Ramachandra Sangamage Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koro Mohore Tuma Bina Ke Dayalu Jagat Samsare Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Tuma Bina Ke Dayalu Jagata Samsara Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hari Hari Bipale. This is another song by Narottam Das Thakur. Hari Hari Vipade. Janama Goainu. The name is... Oh. Yeah. Hari Hari Bipale Janama Goainu. Let us see the translation first. Yes. So here Narottam Das Thakur is lamenting. He's lamenting. Everyone laments. I think Srila Prabhupada even said, one who laments too much is a Sudra. But this is a different kind of lament. He's not, we lament, we hankering and lamenting, na sosachi, na kankshati. We hanker for things which we don't have, and then we get them, and then we lose them, then we lament. Right? But this lamentation of Narottam Das Thakur, this Prabhupada said, this is purification. To lament like this is purification. So how is he lamenting? He says, Hari Hari Bipale Janama Goainam. O Lord Hari, I have spent my life uselessly. I've wasted my time. Lord Chaitanya used to go out in the mornings, Udila Aruna, Purabhavagya, Dvijamani, Gauraman, and he would announce to the people who were still sleeping at that time, because he would go very early in the morning with his followers, Sankirtan party, and they would go throughout the towns and villages, Nadia. And he would announce to the people who were still sleeping, you spend your life uselessly sleeping and your days decorating your bodies. You've achieved a rare gift of this human body, but you don't care for it. If you don't, you remain, you don't worship Krishna, he says, you remain not serving the darling of Yashoda, Yashoda Nandana. You don't, he said, but this human life is meant for that. And if you don't do this, he said, great sorrow awaits you at death. Great sorrow will come to you. Then you will lament. I wasted my time. And then at death, everyone will lament if they've not taken to practice Krishna consciousness. Because they don't know where they are going, or what situation they are going to. They have to leave everything behind, right? They have to leave their loved ones, their family, their wife, children, the house, the car, everything. And no doctor can give you any more time. There's nothing anyone can do to keep you there. Prabhupada tells a story of one man, who on his deathbed, he was begging the doctor, "Can you not give me a few more days, a few more years? I have so much to accomplish." And Prabhupada said, "What nonsense you have to accomplish." But not a second more. You just have to get out and go. And you don't know where you're going. So, he says, having obtained this human birth and having not worshipped Radha and Krishna, I have knowingly drunk poison. Knowingly. So if we don't take to Krishna consciousness, we are knowingly drinking poison. It is, what do you call that? When someone who drinks poison knowingly, is suicide. Suicide. So, that's what we are doing. Janya Shunya Bisha kind of. Drinking poison knowingly. But human life is meant for making a solution to this process of samsara, taking birth, getting old, dying, taking birth. And not only that, we don't know what situation we will go to. It's not guaranteed you'll be human birth even. You could go down. Sometimes you meet people who think that you only reincarnate in human form. No. So who's coming in those animals? You are placed by higher authorities. Karmana daiva nitrena. You don't know. So Narottam is lamenting that I spent my life uselessly. I didn't take to worshipping Krishna, Radha and Krishna. So my life has been useless, waste of time. Then he says that this treasure of the holy name, this Krishna consciousness, it has come to us, has descended. It is from Goloka. It is foreign import. coming to us from Goloka. They are chanting there. They are chanting and dancing there. In the Bhagavatam, so many examples of the gopis are chanting, the cowherd boys are chanting. All chanting Krishna's glories. So, it has come to us, descended, but was brought here by Chaitanya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sankirtan. He said, but such a nice thing, but I have no attraction for that. Sometimes you see nobody hears, you're on the streets chanting and people walk by as if it's like One thing I noticed, if we have a big party, a big Harinam Sankirtan party, they cannot ignore you. They have to acknowledge that we are there. Otherwise, if it's a small group, they think we are irrelevant. Yeah, I saw this. They think we are irrelevant. But so people, they think, that is for. Sometimes they think that is for those who couldn't make it in the material world. Right? So that's for the losers. But no, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, those who have sumedasa, who have good intelligence, they will take to Sankirtan. This is Bhagavatam tells us so. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishna Sango Pangastra Parshada Jagai Sankirtana Praya Yajantihi Sumedasa. So Narottam said, why did my attraction for that chanting never come about? Day and night my heart burns from the fire of the poison of worldliness, materialism, and I have not taken the means to relieve it. So Sankirtan parties are going out by the grace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all over the world by the grace of Srila Prabhupada. And still people don't take to it, or they ignore it, as if it's not so important. But this is the medicine. This is the real medicine for all our suffering. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has sung, Inicheo Shodhi Maya Nashi Baraladi. I have brought a medicine that can wipe out all your diseases. It's like if you get one pill, and that's all you have to take, and it can cure everything. This is Mahamantra. So, we chant Hare Krishna, and we have to chant with conviction and faith that this is the best thing. There is no better thing. And as we chant, the more we chant, then our attraction to Krishna will come, it will develop. It begins like by hearing the chanting and then chanting, gradually we become attracted. And then as that attraction develops, then we become enthusiastic to serve. So, he tells us that Krishna, who is the son of the king of Braj, Nanda Maharaj, Brajendra Nandana Jai Sachi Sutahar, he became the son of Sachi, Lord Chaitanya, and Balaram became Nitai. And the holy name which they brought delivered everyone, all souls who were low and wretched. And Jagai and Madai was evidence of this. At the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 500 years ago, Jagai and Madai were not common. They were uncommon. That's why they're famous. Infamous. But they were delivered by, by the great mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. So Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was ready to give Krishna consciousness, Krishna Prem, for that to anyone who wanted it. But Nityananda Prabhu, he wanted to give it to those who didn't want it. So, and Srila Prabhupada, he has delivered thousands of jagais and madhais. So, how merciful. So Narottam Das is praying to Krishna, accompanied by Radha. He says, he's lamenting, he said, I wasted my life, but now I've come to realize what is my predicament. So what do? I have to do something about it, try to make good. So now he's saying, except for you, I have no other shelter. Yeah. Hari Hari Bipale Janama Goainu Bipale Janama Goainu Manusha Janama Paya Radha Krishna Nabajiya Manusha Janama Paya Radha Krishna Nabajiya Janiya Shuniya Bisha Kainu Janiya Shuniya Bisha Kainu Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtana Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtana Rati na jan milokene kai Rati na jan milokene kai Sansara Dishanale Dibanishi Hiya Jole Sansara Dishanale Dibanishi Hiya Jole koinu yu Juraite na koinu yu Brajendra Nandana Jai Sachi Sutta Hoilo Sei Brajendra Nandana Jai Sachi Sutta Hoilo Sei Balaram Iloni Tai Balaram Iloni Tai Vina Hina Jata chilo hariname yudarilo Dina hino jata chilo hariname yudarilo Tara Shakshi Jogaima Dai Tara Shakshi Jogaima Dai Prabhu Nanda Sutta Sabanu Sutta Juta Aha Prabhu Nanda Sutta Sabanu Sutta Juta Koruna Koro Ei Baro Koruna Koro Ei Baro Narottamo Dasa Koi Nateli Orangapai Narottamo Dasa Koi Nateli Orangapai Toma bina che ace amaro Toma bina che ace amaro Sutta Vishama Sutta Juta Haha Prabhu Nanda Sutta Vishama Sutta Juta Toma bina che ace amaro Karuna koro ei baro Narottamo Dasa Koi Nateli Orangapai Narottamo Dasa Koi Nateli Orangapai Toma bina che ace amaro Toma bina che ace amaro Hari Hari Vipale Janama Goainu bale janama guainu. Primo. I read Jamuna Devi. She once asked Prabhupada, what was his favorite bhajan? And he said, Hari Hari Bipale. So this is a very nice song. It's good. How about Shuddha Bhakata? Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajana Anukul Bhaktivinoda Thakur Shuddha Bhakata or SU go lower, go down lower. Yeah, not yet. Keep going. It's coming. No. Higher. There we go. Translation first. It's good to know what it is we're singing. Prabhupada would remark, one time he was speaking and he quoted a line from Sri Guru Charana Padma. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittete Koryakya. He said, you are singing every day, but do you know the meaning of the words? So, there is meaning. So, Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajana Anukul. Anukul and Pratikul. Anukul means favorable. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is telling us what's favorable for making progress in Krishna consciousness. So first thing is, he says, the dust of the lotus feet of pure devotees. Pure devotees, like Srila Prabhupada, Krishna is their property. Why do we worship the deity? Because the devotee told us, that is Krishna. Krishna is there. So where is he, Krishna, more present? In the devotee, in the heart of the devotee. And Krishna himself says like that. He said, they're in my heart and I'm in their heart. They don't know anybody but me, I don't know anybody but them. So, then he says, enthusiastic devotional service. So devotional service should be performed with some enthusiasm. Utsaha nischaya daryat. Srila Rupa Goswami has told in Upadeshamrita. Not begrudgingly. You know, I remember as a new bhakta in New York Temple, Mother Bhumi was there, and the temple commander was Sunanda. And many of us were living in the temple in those days. I think all devotees were living in the temple. Now it has changed. There's a congregation. Most devotees are outside and very few are in the temple. But in those days everyone was in the temple. It was all or nothing at all. And the temple commander would come, his job was to engage us in Krishna service. And a group of us new bhaktas, when we saw him coming this way, we would run that way. So look, Sunanda's coming. We're going to try to find a place to hide. We didn't understand. The service was, this was our relationship with Krishna. The opportunity to render service is most desirable thing. But we didn't know, so we would try to escape it, to get around it. But Prabhupada said, no, a devotee, he said many things, what it means to be a devotee, but one thing he said was that devotee means he needs a place to lie down, to take rest, simple, some prasadam, simple, some time to chant, and if there's some service, gladly let me do it, gladly. So, therefore enthusiastic devotional service is recommended by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he said, the service to the pure devotees of the highest order are the roots of the creeper of devotion. So, then he says, the holy days like Ekadashi and Janmashtami, we have so many wonderful holy days. He said, these are the mother of devotion. By observing, honoring these holy days, respecting them properly, then bhakti, devotion will come within us. Then he says, let the holy places of Krishna's pastimes be my places of worship. So Srila Prabhupada has introduced us to the Dham, Vrindavan Dham, Mayapur Dham, these holy places, Jagannath Puri Dham, these are all wonderful, these are worshipable places. They're not different from the abode in the spiritual world. No? In another song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu jive doya kori swaparshada sviya dham saha avatari. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come with his parshadas, devotees, and his own abode. He brought the dham with him. Sriya Dham, his own abode with him to this world. And to teach us how to worship, teach us the ways of Sharanagati, how to surrender to Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita at the end, Sarvadharma Parichita, surrender. But nobody knew how to do that. So therefore he come again as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us how to surrender. The fourth verse he says, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, when I hear the sound of the mardanga, tatai, tatai, bhajalo kol. Huh? He said, when I hear this sweet sound of the mridanga in my heart, I always desire to join in Kirtan. And when I hear these bona fide songs like this, describing the Lord's pastimes, my heart dances in ecstasy. So the transcendental vibrations of Kirtan, come into the temple, this is not ordinary, extraordinary. When I first saw the devotees in New York, it was on the streets, chanting. And of course I didn't know what it was. I was coming from a little island, a small country in the Caribbean. And I didn't know anything about, and not only me, but people in America didn't know what this was. I think even when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started the Sankirtan movement, he is the father of the Sankirtan movement. Sankirtanaika Pitaro, he's the Pita of the Sankirtan movement. People didn't know what it was, even in India. They complained, the neighbors complained to the Kazi that Nimai Pandit is keeping us up awake at night with this chanting. And then they complain, oh, he's spoiling our Hindu religion, going out in the street chanting and encouraging all kinds of people. You know. So they didn't understand. So but when I didn't understand, I didn't know what they were. There was just a small group of devotees chanting on the street. But the sound was very pleasing and attractive to me. I didn't even, it was spiritual, seriously, because I didn't know, at least in my realm of experience, coming from Judeo-Christian background, this was so different. They looked different, and they were singing in a different way. But it still was pleasing and nice. And just by observing them, I couldn't tell what they were. It wasn't until I got the courage to go to the temple and visit. Then everything was explained. You see? So, and here, worshipping, as he says, when I see the transcendental Sri Vigraharas, the worshipable deities of Radha and Krishna, this is also not ordinary thing. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, I'm in bliss, and when I take the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, the prasadam, he says, we can conquer over the material elements. Yes. Prabhupada taught all of this, gave all of this, prasadam, and distributing prasadam, distributing the holy name, distributing the teachings in the form of his books. So many things. All of these Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, all these things, they're related to Krishna. Tadiya. They're related to Krishna. They have connection with Krishna. So we should not take them lightly. Temple is here now, come to the temple every day. Don't just come on Sunday, but every day. Christian tradition, Sunday was the day of worship. But the Vaishnava line, it's every day, anytime. So, and then he mentions the Charanamrita, the water the bathing. Every day the deities are bathed and dressed in nice, fresh garments and fresh garlands. 24/7 engagement in Krishna service. Because Krishna doesn't sleep. Mahavishnu, he sleeps. Mahavishnu sleeps for a long time. But Krishna, he doesn't sleep. In Krishna Lila, even when Mother Yashoda puts him to rest at night, as soon as she closed the door, he's out the window. And he goes out to be with the Braja Gopis. And he comes back in the morning. So he doesn't get any sleep. So he can be worshipped all the time, 24/7. Then he says, by seeing the Tulsi tree, my heart feels joy. Prabhupada also introduced devotees to Tulsi worship. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur concludes by saying, whosoever attains the stage of enthusiasm for these devotional practices will be supremely blissful wherever he may be. So, let us chant enthusiastically. This one's a little different, but I think you could follow. Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajanaya Kula Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Kula Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Kula Charanarenu Bhakata Seva Parama Siddhi Premalati Karamula Parama Siddhi Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Kula Madhavatiti Janani Jatane Palana Kori Krishna Bosati Bosati Paramoradare Bori Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Kula তোমার যে সব স্থানে করল ব্রাহ্মণ রাঙ্গে সে সব স্থানে হেরিব আমি প্রণয়ব কত শুদ্ধ কথা চরণ রেণু ভজনয়ানু কুল মৃদঙ্গ বাজ শুনিতে মন সার আছে মৃদঙ্গ বাজ শুনিতে মন অবসার সদা যাচ্ছে গৌরবিহিত কীর্তন শুনি আনন্দে হৃদয় নাচে কীর্তন শুনি শুদ্ধ কথা চরণ রেণু ভজনয়ানু কুল যুগল মূর্তি দেখিয়া মোরা পরম আনন্দ হয়া প্রসাদ সেবা করিতে হয়া সকল প্রপঞ্চ জয়া কথা চরণ রেণু ভজনয়ানু কুল যেদিনে ভজন দেখি গৃহেতে গোলোক বায় চরণ সিধু দেখিয়া গঙ্গা সুকন সীমা পায়া শুদ্ধ কথা চরণ রেণু ভজনয়ানু কুল তুলসী দেখি জুড়ায় প্রাণ মাধব তোষাই জানি গৌর প্রিয় শাক সেবানে জীবন সার্থক মনি চরণ রেণু ভজনয়ানু কুল ভক্তি বিনোদ কৃষ্ণ ভজনে অনুকূল পায় যাহা প্রতিদিবাসে পরম সুখে স্বীকার করে তাহা
Bhakata seva parama siddhi prem lati kara mula prem lati kara mula Sudha Bhakata charana renu anu kula
Have something with Lord Nityananda. Borosuke Kabogai. Borosuke Kabogai is sweet. This is a song of, it's called the Song of the Broker. Boro, there it is, Borosuke Kabogai. A song about the marketplace of the holy name. So, in this song, Bhaktivinoda Thakur singing. He says, singing news of great happy tidings. Lord Nityananda himself has opened the marketplace of the holy name in Surabhi Kunj. This is at Gaur Purnima, devotees go over there on pilgrimage. Navadvip Parikram, and we go to the Surabhi Kunj. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has a house there. So he says the news, right, the news of its great results is that he, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, is selling the pure holy name in that marketplace for the price of only one's faith. That's all. We say it doesn't cost anything, but the price is your faith. You must have faith. You have to chant with firm conviction and faith. So Lord Nityananda, the proprietor of the market, seeing all the devotees becoming attracted, is selling them the holy name after bargaining with them. Bargaining is very common in India. Yes. I remember my first visit to India, to Mayapur. I wanted to purchase a mridanga. But the difficulty was I didn't know what was the price of a mridanga. So I took the boat, crossed the Ganga, took a rickshaw, I told the rickshaw, I told him I want to buy mridanga wala. So he took me to one little shop, and the man had so many mridangas in his room. So he said, please come inside. So I go over to the mridangas and I want to pick out the best one, what little I knew. So I picked one out that I liked, put it around my neck and I started playing it. And he said, so I said, how much? So he said, 350 rupees. Now I don't know, right? I had never done this before, but one thing I knew, that he was charging too much. But I didn't know what was the price. But when devotees had told, they said, they will always ask for more than what it is worth, what is the going price. But nobody told me what is the going price, but I knew that he's charging too much, so I thought I will engage him. So I said, it's very nice, I like it a lot, but it's too much, I cannot afford it. I said, I'm a brahmachari, I don't have much money. So he said, okay, 250 rupees. So I thought, wow, he has gone down so much. From 350 to 250? Amazing. But a little voice in my head was telling me he's still charging too much. And the only way I could find out, engaging him. So I keep playing with the mridanga, and I said, you've come down, that is very nice. But it is too much for me. I'm just a brahmachari. So there were two fellas in the shop, and they're in the shop, and my rickshaw wala he's sitting there on the rickshaw. He's just watching the fun, seeing what will happen. So I said, it's really nice, but I cannot afford it. So I took it off. I took off the drum, the strap, and I put it down. So I took one step and he grabbed my hand and said, okay, 200 rupees. So I thought, wow. And meantime, I'm calculating in my head, so little money, in American money, right? I think in those days we were getting like 50 rupees for $1. So it seems like so cheap. But I still feel he's charging too much. So I said, oh, you are very kind, but I cannot afford it. So he said, okay. He said, you tell me how much you want to pay. I told him, now I'm in trouble. Because I don't know how much to ask, I don't know how much to say. He's put me on the spot now. So I'm thinking, what shall I say? I really don't know. I have no idea. So I thought, you know what? There's an expression that says, go for broke, take a chance. So I said, he said, how much you want to pay? So I said, look, all I can afford is 90 rupees. When I said 90 rupees, I'm certain he cursed me. Because he started yelling at me, and the tone of his voice and his face, in Bengali, of course. I knew he was cursing me. And he told me, get out, chasing me out of the shop. All right, you asked me how much I want to pay. I told you, why are you getting so mad? So I turned around and I said, okay, rickshaw, let's go, we'll find another place. I didn't even get to the rickshaw. He grabbed my hand and said, okay, you take it, 90 rupees. So I was feeling so happy. I thought, wow, I did it. You know? The story. That's not the end of the story. So I give him the 90 rupees and I got in the rickshaw and told him, take me to the Ganga. So we got to the Ganga, and in those days they used to have these small, now they have big boats. But then they used to have these like gondolas, you know. So I got on and there was one other man, one Bengali gentleman was sitting there in the boat with an umbrella, just in white khadi. So he's sitting there in the shade because it's hot. So I'm holding the mridanga and I'm in love with the mridanga. I'm just thinking, I can't believe I got it for only 90 rupees, you know? And I'm feeling so happy. I can't wait to play this at the temple. So the gentleman, he could see that I was really enraptured with the mridanga. You know, I was just like holding it and, you know, caressing it. I just loved the mridanga. First purchase in India. So when we were about halfway across the Ganga, the gentleman said, excuse me, he could speak English. He says, you at ISKCON? I said, yes. He says, which country are you coming from? I said, oh, America. I said, ah. And then he said, you purchased this mridanga in Navadvip? I said, yes. He said, if you don't mind, he says, if you don't mind, can you tell me how much you paid for this mridanga? Now I'm feeling very proud. So I said to him, oh, I paid only 90 rupees for this mridanga. And he said, 90 rupees? He says, there is no 90 rupees mridanga in Navadvip. There is 30 rupees, 40 rupees and 50 rupees only. Only. I just laughed. I thought, he still got me. I was thinking I did so good. I came down from 350 all to 90. I did good. And he said, no, there's 30 rupees, 40 rupees and 50 rupees only. There's no 90 rupee mridanga in Navadvip. That's not the end of the story. So I got to the other side, Mayapur, and he took a rickshaw to take us up to Mayapur Chandradoya Mandir. So as I got in, there was a long building we used to stay in. So as I'm walking down the hallways with my mridanga, I passed a room and there were about 5 or 6 brahmacharis in the room. And they yelled out, they called out to me, Agnideva! And so I pulled back and I noticed they had about 5 or 6 mridangas on the floor. And because I was Agnideva, I had, a little fame had come, so everybody knew that I was a Kirtaniya. So they said, we just purchased these mridangas in Navadvip and we got them real cheap. So I said, really? I said, yeah. They said, what do you think? Are these good? So I took one up and hit it. I said, yeah, you did good. These are good mridangas. They're all nice. Hit them. They all had good sound. He said, yeah, and we got them real cheap. So I said, how much did you all pay for them? He says, we only paid 500 rupees each. I didn't have the heart to tell them what. They said to me, How much did you pay for yours? I couldn't tell them. Because I know they would, if I told them, they would be very upset and they would go back to sleep, but they would not get their money back because all sales was final. So I said, something like that I paid. To tell a white lie, you know. But that was bargaining, common in India. So Lord Nityananda, he's bargaining with the devotees. So.
What does it mean that Lord Nityananda is bargaining? Can you explain that?
Here he's telling us. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, "Oh brother, if you want to buy the holy name, then go with me. We must go to the presence of that great soul Nityananda. You will buy the name of Krishna and I will take my commission. And all our desires will be fulfilled." So, Lord Nityananda is bargaining. Actually it is a bargain to get the name. This is the most precious thing. This is the most valuable thing. Nama Chintamani Krishnasya Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Abhinatam Nam Namine. It is the most valuable thing. So the bargaining coming from Lord Nityananda's side, we are the ones who are gaining. You know? We are gaining. What is gaining? What is Lord Nityananda gaining? Our troubles. Our sinful life. So the bargain is really, we are the benefiting. As Prabhupada would say, if you render some service to Krishna, you are the gainer, you are benefiting. Krishna doesn't need your service. He is surrounded by goddesses of fortune. Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahmasevyamanam. So he said, so don't think that Krishna needs it. That is not a fact. He said, you know, if you render service, you become benefited. So Lord Nityananda is bargaining, but really, he's the most merciful personality. It says here, he is greatly merciful, taking only one's faith, he gives the highest ecstasy. So, you spend the least and you get the most. What a bargain is that? Huh? Spend the least and you get the most. What do we have? We have nothing. Whatever material things we've accumulated, that is nothing compared to what you're getting. And he says, if Nitai only once, tears in the eyes, while chanting the name Gaura, he gives all resources to that person. He gives the pure teachings of Krishna to everyone, and he does not care for one's birth, wealth, knowledge, strength. So it's why one-sided. We are getting everything. So Bhaktivinoda concludes, now we see the illusory snare of Maya. Either you remain in the household life or in the forest as a sannyasi, no more troubles remain. There's no more fear of the age of Kali, because the merciful Lord Nityananda is given the holy name to the Chandalas, the dog eaters. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur cries out, except for the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, there is no other shelter. Let me sing this one. I cannot sit for long, my knees start hurting. This is good. I just have to adjust every now and then. Boro suker kobogai, Boro suker kobogai, Boro suker kobogai, Surabi kunjete, Namer hat kuleche, Surabi kunjete, hat kulete, kodanitai, kodanitai. Kodanitai. Boro moja kota thai, Boro moja kota thai, Boro moja kota thai, Boro moja kota thai. Shraddha mule shuddha naam sehatete bikai. Shraddha mule shuddha naam sehatete bikai. Kodanitai, kodanitai. Jata bhakta brinda basi, Jata bhakta brinda basi. Adhikari dekhe naam beche daro. Adhikari dekhe naam beche daro kashi. Kodanitai, kodanitai. Kodanitai, kodanitai. Jadi naam kinbe bai, jadi naam kinbe bai. আমার সঙ্গে চলো মহাজনের কাছে যাও, আমার সঙ্গে চলো মহাজনের কাছে যাও। তুমি কিনবে কৃষ্ণ নাম, তুমি কিনবে কৃষ্ণ নাম, তুমি কিনবে কৃষ্ণ নাম, তুমি কিনবে কৃষ্ণ নাম। দাস্তুরি লইব আমি পুনঃ বেখাম, দাস্তুরি লইব আমি পুনঃ বেখাম। kodanitai, kodanitai. Kodonitai, Kodonitai. Nitananda, Borodoyo Nitananda. Shadamatra Loedin Paramayananda. Shadamatra Loedin Paramayananda. एक बार देख ले छके जाल, एक बार देख ले छके जाल, एक बार देख ले छके जाल, एक बार देख ले छके जाल। गौर बोले निताई देन सकल संबाल, गौर बोले निताई देन सकल संबाल। Kodonitai, 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 Kodonitai. Then Shuddha Krishna Shika, then Shuddha Krishna Shika. Then Shuddha Krishna Shika, then Shuddha Krishna Shika. Jati dana bola na kore apeka, Jati dana vidya bola na kore apeka. Amani chare maya jal, amani chare maya jal, amani chare maya jal, amani chare maya jal. Grihe thako bane thako na thake janjal, grihe thako bane thako na thake janjal. Godonitai, 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 Godonitai. Arnaiko kalir boy, Arnaiko kalir boy, Arnaiko kalir boy, Arnaiko kalir boy. Achandale de nam nitai doyamoy, Achandale de nam amoy. Bhakti vinoda ki koi, Bhakti vinoda ki koi, Bhakti vinoda ki koi, Bhakti vinoda ki koi. Nitai charan binaya nahi ashrai, Nitai charan binaya nahi ashrai. Borosuke kobogai, Borosuke kobogai, Borosuke kobogai, Borosuke kobogai. Sura bikunjete name hatulete, Sura bikunjete name hatulete. Kodonitai, 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 Kodonitai. Doyol Nitai, Doyol Nitai, Doyol Nitai, Doyol Nitai. Doyol Nitai, Doyol Nitai, Doyol Nitai, Doyol Nitai. Nitai. Haribo. Go back to the translation. There's a few verses down the end that about Nityananda. Let's see. Oh, 8. Yes. Chandale. No, go 7. What does 7 say? Maybe it's verse 8, where he says, he does not care for one's birth, wealth, knowledge and strength. Jati dana vidya bola na korea peka. These things don't… What we acquire here in this world, those things, they have no purchasing power in the spiritual world. They have no purchasing power. So Nanda, he gives the teachings to everyone without caring for these things. There's another verse where it says, Achandale de nam. Is it maybe 10? What's 10th verse? Oh, yes. There's no more fear, no fear of the age of Kali, because the merciful Nityananda gives the holy name even to the Chandalas. Yes. He gives it to everyone. As I said, even to those who don't want it. And Srila Prabhupada is following in the footsteps of Lord Nityananda, empowered actually by Shakti. Nityananda Avesh, the Shakti of Lord Nityananda. Because of his method of preaching and distributing Krishna consciousness is very much like in the mood of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. You know, Lord Nityananda Prabhu was ordered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go out and preach door to door. He wanted to stay with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, naturally. But Lord Chaitanya told him, no, if you stay here, then who will… So he had to go back. And he would go door to door. There are many pastimes of Lord Nityananda. In Chaitanya Bhagavat gives more pastimes than Chaitanya Charitamrita. We get some, but Chaitanya Charitamrita was concerned specifically with presenting the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And as he gave them to Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami, because they were his chief whips, as they say. he spent considerable time giving them, and then they were ordered to write books and on explaining the science of Krishna consciousness, which they did. And they wrote books citing references from all over the Vedas. They were scholarly, super intelligent men. Before joining Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were government ministers. So they occupied big posts. And but Nityananda Prabhu was rich. Before, when there was no books at the time. Books came later when the Goswamis wrote books. But Nityananda Prabhu went with nothing, door to door, begging everyone. And of course, Nityananda Prabhu was unorthodox in his behavior. He was avadut. He would do unusual things. We'll leave it at that. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always there to point out to the devotees, don't take him for an ordinary person. He was most... and everything he wanted was to glorify Lord Chaitanya. So he would go door to door and just give it to everybody, to the Muslims, the Chandalas, Dogitas, everyone. And Srila Prabhupada is very much, his preaching is very much like that, to go all around the world. Now, if you go to Mayapur, Gaur Purnima, you will see devotees from China, Japan, Africa, everywhere. Middle East, Yes. So, very much in the mood of Lord Nityananda. And Prabhupada spread the glories of Nityananda everywhere. Actually, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he did not install Gaur Nitai deities. In all his temples there were Radha Krishna with Gaura, like here. But Prabhupada, everywhere was Gaur Nitai. And in Vrindavan, some devotees considered Krishna Balaram Mandir was Prabhupada's crowning achievement. To establish Krishna Balaram worship was the first. And he taught that worshipping Gaur Nitai was same as worshipping Krishna and Balaram. That's where Prabhupada left this world, with Krishna Balaram Mandir. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls out, except for the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, there is no other shelter. So, it is not a personality to overlook. Gauranga bolite habe. How's that? So this song is by Thakur, and he is saying, hankering. He says, when that opportune moment come to us, when there'll be shivering of the body, as soon as we chant Lord Gauranga's name, and while chanting Hare Krishna, when there will be tears in the eyes. Srila Prabhupada has commented that this is not to be imitated. This is not to be imitated. These symptoms, Astasatvika Bhava, they come naturally when one is pure. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, these things would appear in his, when he chanted. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes how he would, all of the symptoms would come at once. At once, so he would be out of control. Teeth chattering, his hair standing on end, and his hands would, the joints would become elongated. It was most unusual. One fellow heard about this kind of symptoms, and he said, "Is that what you all want?" I thought that sounds scary, right? I cannot understand. That's what we're aspiring for, because on the outside it looks Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Baya Visha Jala hoy, Bitare Anandamay, Krishna Prema Adbhuta Charita. The wonderful characteristics of love of God is that on the outside, it looks like poison, it looks horrible. But on the inside is nectar. And material life, on the outside it looks very nice. But inside it's the pits. It's horrible. So Prabhupada said these things are not to be imitated. There is a class of people called sahajiyas. They try to make a show of ecstasy. They could force tears to even come out their eyes. But sahaja means those who take things cheaply. So Narottam Das, he's saying, no, when will that day come when that is not, you cannot force your way into that experience. It's not such a cheap thing. He says, when will I attain the mercy of Lord Nityananda Chandra? When by his mercy will the desire for material enjoyment become very insignificant? So, this is the symptom. One whose material enjoyment is insignificant, then then the tears will come, then the feelings of ecstasy will come. Not otherwise, not before that. So one who's been purified, then he can experience that. We had we're reading about these things in in the early days about Sahajiyas, we had never seen such people in the Prabhupada was writing about them, and we thought, wonder, we never didn't know such people exist. But then we went to Mayapur in 1977 and we saw them. Because at that time, Jayapataka Maharaj he had this idea to get people from the villages to come to our temple. He had a Kirtan competition. Well, Kirtan and competition, they really don't go together. But he had this idea to bring people out from the villages, so he had flyers and so on. And this was like, so Prabhupada was there. Prabhupada was upstairs in his room, but there was a big stage with pandal, and all these groups came from the interior of Bengal. And of course we were curious, many of the devotees were curious. We had never seen, we didn't know that there were Sahajas, that we didn't know. But with all these Kirtan groups, we were curious to see what they would do, how they would play and so on. So they were, each group and ISKCON groups, we were encouraged to participate in the competition too. So they said, the temples, each temple could put together a group. The big temples, like Chicago, New York, different places, they all put together, they brought many devotees. And so there were like 10 people in a group. England, Germany, all these. So I had just been made president of Laguna Beach, and I could only afford to take 1 or 2 devotees with me to India. So we didn't have enough to make a group. So I thought, well, I can't enter this competition. But some other devotees from other temples who only came with a few devotees, they came to me and said, why don't we form a mixed group, 3 to 4 temples, and you will chant. So I said, okay, so we entered the competition. But the point was that when the Bengalis took the stage, these groups, they were expert at playing the mridanga. Expert. They could run rings around us. Actually, we didn't know how to play. And they all had about 10 people in each group. And every group was given 1 hour. You go on stage and you chant Hare Krishna mantra for 1 hour. And then, and there was a panel of judges. Yeah. And the panel of judges, the only Westerner in the panel was Achyutananda Swami. And all the other people were like the mayor of Navadvip, dignitaries. So Jayapataka was trying to, engage them, include them in it. So they're all sitting up on the stage there, on the side. But within 2 minutes, when these groups took the stage, each one, every single group, after 2 or 3 minutes of chanting, the lead singer would drop to the ground and start crying. Horrible, horrible crying, It was just like pathetic. I mean, Haribo. So nobody liked it. But they would do it as soon as within 2-3 minutes. One of the lead singer would fall on the ground and roll and start really horrible. It sounded more like jackals, you know? And whenever they did that, Achyutananda Swami, he was sitting on the stage, he would do like this. and the other judges would look at him like, they didn't know what that was. We know what it was. They were, you know. And that's when I thought, oh, these are the people Prabhupada was talking about, these sahajiyas. Trying to force and make a show of ecstasy, like crying for Krishna. But that's, you know. And Trivikram Maharaj, he was in Prabhupada's room at the time, upstairs with Prabhupada. And he told us that Prabhupada heard the crying. He told him, close the window. He said, what is that? What was that? You know? And Trivikram Maharaj told him, oh, some Bengalis. And Prabhupada said, who invited them? And he said, well, Jayapataka Maharaj. And Prabhupada said, oh, okay. Because Jayapataka was the man. He was running the show in Mayapur. And then Trivikram Maharaj explained that Jayapataka had this idea to get the people to come, the local Kirtan groups. And Prabhupada said, but he should not have put competition. He said, as soon as he put competition, that would not bring pure devotees. Because no pure devotee wants to in competition. So you'll just get the low class people. Prabhupada said, they are simply chanting to fill their bellies. He said, you know, the idea was good to get people, but he shouldn't have used the word competition. Anyway, we entered the competition and we won. And afterwards, I remember going down to the basement where they allowed the groups to stay. And you go downstairs and I saw some of them BDs. So that confirmed they're not Shuddha Bhaktas, they're not pure devotees. Because, you know. So, these things are not to be imitated. He said, you know, Naradadas he says, when I get free from material anxieties, material desires, then I shall be able to understand the conjugal love affairs of Radha and Krishna, and then my spiritual life will be successful. But we can say with our shoes on, right? You can go there with your shoes on. You cannot force your way there. And then he says, when shall I be very much eager to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis, headed by Srila Goswami and Raghunath Goswami. By their instruction, I shall be able to properly understand what is Radha and Krishna, what is their loving affairs. So we can't, this was Prabhupada's mercy, giving us what we need to go there. His books are contain so much, everything we need. These books were written by the Goswamis. You know, Prabhupada gave us the nectar of devotion. Active devotion is a summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. And this whole science of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, is given there. And that's what separates our movement from other movements. Is that we have real spiritual knowledge, genuine spiritual knowledge, and everything is explained properly. So, last one? Time's up. Okay. We'll go into Hare Krishna after this. Gauranga bolite habe Pulaka sharira Hari Hari bolite Yane babe nira Pulaka sharira Hari Hari bolite Yane babe nira Gauranga bolite habe Pulaka sharira Hari Hari bolite na Yane babe nira Nitai chande koruna hoibe sangsara basana mora kobe tu chahabe Vishaya chadiya kabe shudaha bimana kabe hama hai rabu Sri Vrindavana Bose jugala piriti Rupa Raghunatha Pade Rahu Mora Asha Pratana Karo Sada Narottamo Das dite ayone babenira. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavana, Shri Govinda Gopinatha, Madana Mohana. Shri Govinda Gopinatha, Madana Mohana. Jaya Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavana, Shri Govinda Gopinatha, Madana Mohana. Jam Jaya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Namo Krishna Yadavai Namaha. Namo Krishna Yadavai Namaha. Yadavai Madhavai Keshavai Namaha. Yadavai Madhavai Keshavai Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan, Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhat Raghunath, Sri Jiva Bhata Das Raghunath. Hare Namo Krishna Yadavai Namaha. Hare Namo Krishna Yadavai Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan, Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Pad Sri Guru Nitai Gaur Sitanath Gaura Premanande. Jai Nitya Pravishto Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajakachajastu Tarasata Srishiman, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitya Leela Prabhu Vishnupad, Paramhansa Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada ki, Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Shad Goswami Prabhus ki, Prem se go Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath, Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan ki, Sri Vrindavan Dham ki, Sri Mayapur Navadip Dham ki, Sri Jagannath Dham ki, Ganga Devi Jamuna Mai ki, Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani ki, Naam Sankirtan ki, Harinam Mahamantra ki, Brihat Mridanga Seva ki, Paramakaruna Sri Sri Gaur Nitya ki, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki. All glories to the assembled devotee. All glories to the assembled devotee. All glories to the assembled devotee. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gaurango. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.